All right, sweet. Okay, hello. I guess you've already talked to me this or today. But welcome to week 2 of the CAD and 3D printing milestones course. Last week we went over some basic sketches and extruding and revolves and all that fun stuff. But now we're going to go a little bit more specific, right? We're going to be kind of refining our sketches to make them a little bit more complex, because you'll kind of see when you start CADing, a lot of the stuff you're going to be doing is like you're going to make a lot of extrudes and a lot of revolves. Like most of the models you create, at least for me, are made of a majority of extrudes and revolves. So if you can get these down, you'll be well on your way to making really cool stuff. But to make good sketches, there are a couple things that you want to keep in mind. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today. So intermediate design skills. So last week, I was talking a little bit about fully defining your sketches, when they turn like from blue to black, like all the lines and the arcs. So we like that. But I kind of only showed you like one way to define like points in space, right? I showed you the sketch dimension tool. And it's very useful for defining like lengths and angles and stuff like that. But then there's other things that you sometimes wish you could do, and you don't really need to use the sketch dimension tool. When I first started CADing, I didn't really know about them. So I just started to when I wanted things to be next to each other, I just started sketch dimensioning things to 0. Do not do that. So when I first started CADing, I had no formal training. So I just kind of started doing random stuff. But now that you're here, you can learn things the right way. So the nice thing about constraints, we're talking about geometric constraints in this course, or at this point in time. You can relate different parts of the sketch to other parts of the sketch, right? So depending on how you constrain these things, you can design them to be easily changeable in the future. So yeah, we're probably just gonna jump right into it. But yeah, there's a bunch of different geometric constraints. I'm just going to be listing a bunch of them. I'm not going to read all of them. A lot of them are probably like kind of implied in the name, especially if you've done like geometry and stuff like that. So like coincident is just having like a point or a line merge with something else. Like collinear, that's kind of self-explanatory. Concentric, 2 circles on top of each other. And then, parallel, perpendicular. I will say there is a fixed constraint. I highly recommend you don't use this constraint. There are very niche cases where it is useful, but for the most part in this course, you're not going to be using it, and I encourage you don't use it. The reason why I recommend you don't use it is because before you fix something, it's kind of in an arbitrary point in space, right? You can drag your point or line around, but then if you fix it, you are making it immovable, but it's still in an arbitrary spot, right? You didn't really tell it exactly where, other than it's just kind of over here. So if you do that, and you want things to fit together really nicely, and you're just making a bunch of fixed constraints, it'll probably cause issues later. So please don't use it. There's going to be one time that we're going to be using it, and it's in the next assignment, but it's just showing you how it works. But for the most part, I generally avoid using this constraint. But other than that, most of these are all free game. So yeah, there's also these: horizontal, vertical, tangent, smooth, equal. Symmetry is pretty cool. But yeah, we're just going to jump right into it. So I believe I uploaded this file. If you go into the course Discord, which I hope everyone is on, there's this assignment for Fusion file. You just want to download it, and then we're going to start working on it and trying all the different constraints. Okay. Oh, it's under resources. Yeah. I have a singular mouse, so if someone else needs a mouse, raise their hand now, or else You won't get a mouse. The little adapter thing. Okay. Maybe I should start bringing extra ones. Okay. Okay, so if you didn't know, oh wait, I should probably, oh wait, no, I already have it. You can upload files by opening the data panel and then just hitting upload. Wait, I'm recording, right? Okay, yes, I am. Cool. So you upload, you find the file. And then you upload it. For some reason, it likes to move the window, and then it hides the upload button. Yeah. Okay. Just gonna double click this. It's gonna open. And then you can see there's kind of like this image with a plane and then a sketch on it. What we're going to do is we're going to edit the sketch. You can see here there's like lines and circles and stuff like that. We're going to edit the sketch and then follow the instructions according to all these things. So to edit the sketch, you're going to go into the timeline, find the sketch, which is the third one in this case. You're going to right click it and edit it. Don't make like a new sketch or anything because we want to edit what's already on here. So you see here, we're greeted with a bunch of different things. I'm going to hide this with some instructions. Because these are all kind of floating in arbitrary space, when you apply these constraints, it's not going to be fully defined, but that's just kind of okay for this demo. Obviously, when you're creating your own sketches, you really want them to be defined, but this is just, you know, a demo just to test all of them. So I'm just going to start, you know, on the top left. You can see here on the toolbar, there are these, like all these red buttons. These are all the geometric constraints, and then there's more down here as well. So you can use these to constrain these without using the sketch dimension tool, which is over here. So to make these perpendicular, I can either go into the perpendicular tool and click the two lines, or you should be able to hold shift and then select the two things you want to be constrained and then hitting the constraint button. You can see when I did that, nice and perpendicular. And now no matter what I do, you can see I'm dragging this line around. It's always going to be perpendicular unless I like delete the constraint. But yeah. Typically when you apply the tool, you might have to like exit out of like that constraint tool. So you might have to press escape or something. And then you can apply another constraint. So to make these three lines parallel, instead of using this tool, I'm going to use this one over here. And I'm going to click like two lines, make them parallel, and then maybe these two. And you can see they're like almost on top of each other, but they're now all parallel. Yeah, does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, I'm just gonna let everyone run free for a little bit, see if you can figure all of these out. If you have questions on any of the constraining tools, feel free to raise your hand. We'll just be like floating around the room a little bit or something. But yeah, pretty chill first assignment of the day. Yeah. Oh, you made a new sketch. So you made a new open and edit. So sketch to edit. You can see there's like in the comments, there's two sketches down. So the one on the far right is the one we created. You can delete it. And then you might add. You want to right click.
Oh, wait, I think
So I don't know if anyone's encountered this issue, but sometimes when you apply a constraint, it'll apply in a way that you didn't want it to be. Here, I'll do that. Let me see. I'll make a line over here.
Should be able to stay coincident or the same line.
Okay, I'll let him finish that point, and then I'll talk.
Think of again. Collinear? Yeah, because there's no line. Try pull up again. Put this one on there? Kind of. But they're not horizontal now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one. Okay, there's like you can, I think you can select the center of the circle and make them horizontal. Or, yeah,
So
some people just make
you
them
can
line.
do a little line.
Yeah, some people do a line. I don't really care. That's a good point though. So, this is kind of relevant to what you were just having. But yeah, basically, when you apply these constraints, Fusion is like gonna do the easiest thing to calculate it. So, if you want it to be, especially for the vertical and horizontal constraint, you kind of have to suggest and kind of push Fusion in the right direction to make sure it's what you want, right? So you can see I drew this like random line right here, and you see it's like pretty close to vertical, right? But if I wanted it to be horizontal and I applied the horizontal vertical constraint, Fusion is going to be lazy, and because it's closer to vertical, it's just going to make it vertical, right? So if I wanted it to be horizontal, I might have to like manipulate the line a little bit to make it like more easy for Fusion to do what I want it to do. So like here it's more horizontal now. So if I apply it, it's horizontal, right? Yeah, I mean it's just kind of a CAD thing too. So like that's kind of like someone was having like an issue with like this last one in the bottom right. You can see like you can actually constrain circles through like the actual circle or the center, right? So if you wanted all of these to be horizontal to each other and you applied like the vertical horizontal constraint to like this center of the circle and then this one, you can see that it snaps to like vertical because that's like the quote unquote like easier path for Fusion to take. So you might have to like suggest it a little bit. So like I'm moving this, you can see now like it's more closer to horizontal than vertical now. So if I apply it, then it becomes horizontal. So same thing with this. Now it's horizontal. Does that make sense? That's like a little annoying thing about CAD because sometimes it just doesn't do what you want it to do. So you have to make it easy for the computer to know. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I don't know why they combine it, but like this is yeah, it's just Fusion things. But I mean, it's fine. Yeah. What's up?
I would put my Fusion and put that sort of like, gonna put the company name, country of residence, all this. They didn't do this last week. I just opened it. Yeah. No, I mean, like halfway through. It all.
I think it might just be a survey.
But everything incriminating can be silenced.
Does anyone want me to run through any of these constraint assignments? Sometimes people get stuck. Happy to run through a couple. Okay, everyone so
Yeah.
Kind of like, this is supposed to be a beginner level course. There's a lot of
Like okay, I would take this to they show up the SolidWorks because nobody learned SolidWorks in that class.
yeah. I learned it in high school, so that's why.
You know, like I'm trying to understand why.
Like
Where it's good.
These two lines are co-linked, right? How do I like edit that constraint if I wanted to go back into like any of these constraints?
I've been doing
Because like normally when you click on it, oh wait, there.
I like Creo. Creo's not too bad. Creo's not
I
bad.
don't like the weird constraint.
That is true. But like, hey, at least it like shows you.
I also don't like how it change colors when they become different.
And then hover
Like that's actually
Oh, you mean like in that right?
yeah. Fusion does that too. That's something I really like.
Well, if I were to list them, I'd say SolidWorks definitely on top, and then we have Benefit Creo. Yeah, I'll outsource it in my basement. You know, just get it out there.
No, I think it's on most CAD programs you have to actually press the yeah. So yeah, you're good.
So then, what I click on those two? Oh, that's right. There you go. I'll remember it. You can. It's not. Fusion likes to be gay.
Yeah, if you open up the side panel, okay, I'll just do this for everyone. So if you accidentally made a constraint that you didn't want to make, and then you made a bunch more later, and you decide that you want to delete it, you can like hold Control Z until it disappears, which is probably not ideal. Or you can show or hide the constraints. So there's like this, box out here. There's this constraint checkbox. And then when it's checked, I think you can hover over like certain things and then you can find it. So you can see here, like there's the perpendicular constraint that I made earlier. I think you can just click on it and like delete it, right? So now I deleted it and like it's not perpendicular anymore. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find, but if you're in the right spot, it'll appear. So if you're having trouble deleting it, you can do that. When I create my own sketches and sometimes I make a couple constraints I don't like, I usually just delete the line and then start over. I find that to be faster, but that is a way to delete them if it's bothering you. Yeah, I like how when you select like two things in SolidWorks, it'll pop all the constraints up on the side. It's pretty nice. Yeah, but again, this did get better though because it used to be really hard to select. It is good now. Yeah.
Yeah, I took the hair dryer. The hair dryers. I don't know.
Bullying issue, it's my card now. Good, so I'm gonna go off next, so we should fight that.
I don't even know what I filed. I don't figure if I did.
I wouldn't like your color, or it might have to be like in a certain color on your pictures. I mean, I wouldn't, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I know to watch it.
You know, and other investments on the file. Maybe not. Maybe you might have to. Thank you very much.
Where are they being saved? Where do I go? Oh, but like, I might do one of the concerns of It's not only good, like good $dollars. It's like 3 days worth of it. Really? Like on that website, yeah.
Actually, no, one battery.
Mine is, I never checked. Like, it'll actually. It's supposed to last. Okay, so what you can do is like. That's not good for long. So what I would do is start to say. Yeah, I mean, it looks like sense. Yeah, so it should be fine. But if it say it wasn't, say it wasn't. Okay. Then I was asking what she was. Yeah, so a lot of the rates are like.
All of my classes is different.
What is that? What is that?
Only CAD.
Yeah, only CAD.
And during this, you don't really have any other questions. Yeah, yeah, like this will pull up.
Let's get the visualization. Their body.
Yeah, why is mine?
I see one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, wait, no, they got it. Um, you're not gonna say why
I tried poverty.
Are you an engineer? Actually, I want to. We're in Manchester. Okay. I do know. Yeah, I don't know why. It's so annoying. My bugs whenever I get the right answer for my next brainstorm. And like, it shows you the whole song of it.
Oh, you can go see this going on.
I'm doing something.
You have regular USB. My laptop said I don't have USB.
I feel like
Oh, I've done
oh my gosh, you're so right. Okay, thank you. I have a stupid error. I realized that this was just like hanging out with like a this is yeah. No, it's tomorrow. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I think yeah, I don't really know. I just go by what it says on the thing, and I don't pay attention to yeah. Like everywhere. Whoa, it's like you with that. Yeah. Oh, wait, do you ever? Yeah. I don't think it matters. I would just look at it. Wait, are you in VIP or F? That's failed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty sure that's what mine said.
Yeah. All right, sweet. Okay, so now that you know how to do geometric constraints, which at least I hope you do, we're gonna start making stuff with these constraints. So gears are something that, are pretty useful. So we're just gonna make a very generic looking gear. Again, the dimensions that you use don't matter as long as you get the general geometry correct. So yeah, basically, I'm gonna break it down. I'm obviously gonna draw a circle for the base. And then I'm gonna draw a partial tooth for the gear, right? One of the great things about CAD programs is that you can use the computer to your advantage and you can be lazy. And sometimes being lazy in a CAD program is good because it'll make it really easy to change later, right? Like if I really wanted to, I could draw every single tooth on this gear, but that takes a really long time. And let's say, like, I wanted to change the tooth size and they were all like dimensioned differently, then like I would have to change every single tooth, right? And that just sounds terrible. So what we can do is we can make one tooth and then we can basically copy the teeth so they're all the same, right? So this is a very useful tool to use. You can do it with sketches and with like features. So you could like make this circle and then make one tooth and then extrude it. and then like pattern it. But we're gonna do it in one operation today. But just know that it's possible to do it in other ways too. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna make a new design. I'm gonna make a sketch just like we typically do. I'm gonna select this top plane here. You can kind of select whatever you want. I'm gonna first make this circle, again, some arbitrary circle. I'm drawing it from the origin, and then I'm gonna define it. 100. Again, it's good practice to start from the origin, so everything's nice and defined. And then I'm gonna start drawing this tooth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw like a single tooth profile or half a tooth. I'm gonna mirror it, and then I'm gonna pattern the whole thing. So I'm gonna start by drawing like a vertical line here. I'm gonna go across. You can see that like Fusion will kind of snap to stuff. I'm just gonna purposely not snap to things just to apply more constraints. You can see it's kind of like a demented half gear or tooth right here. We want this top to be nice and horizontal. So if it's not horizontal already, you can apply that constraint. And then we can pair it with dimensional constraints. So we can specify this tooth height here, and then like this width and then angle. So I'm gonna do a height, maybe do like, I don't know, 20, this width, like 4. And then I'm gonna specify this angle here. So I'm gonna click on this one, and I can do an angle. You can see this is still like kind of moving around when I move it. You can see it's still blue, so there's some constraints that we need to add. So in this case, you can see here, like all the geometry is kind of staying the same, right? Which is what we want, but obviously this tooth is not in the right spot. It's because this vertical line isn't really constrained in like the horizontal direction. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that this line is coincident with the circle, the center of the circle, right? Because it's vertical, so it should snap. Click on this line here, and then the origin, and you can see it snaps, and it's black and fully defined. Does that make sense? Also, just keep in mind, a lot of the times you'll draw something that looks right, and it might be right, but when you draw it like correct, it won't auto apply certain constraints sometimes. So your geometry might look right, and you might be confused, right? Because like before I applied the constraint, it was like exactly where it needed to be, right? This is what we want, but it's obviously unconstrained. So sometimes I purposely draw things incorrectly to constrain them, like for me to constrain them like purposefully, if that makes sense. That's just kind of one of the things I do. It's just kind of a preference of mine. So like I knew I wanted this line to be horizontal, so I'm like, okay, because I want it to be horizontal, I want to make sure that I specify it as horizontal instead of Fusion trying to auto assume, because sometimes it's wrong, right? Again, with this vertical line, it knew it was vertical, but then it didn't know that it was constrained to the origin, right? So I could have drawn it off to the side and then constrained it later, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's just a personal preference, but it might be useful. Another thing, I don't know if I talked about construction lines a lot last week, but you can turn these solid lines into construction geometry. It basically allows you to kind of create like a framework for whatever thing you're designing while letting Fusion kind of ignore it when you do like extrudes and stuff like that. So for this vertical line, I don't want it to be referenced when I'm extruding later. So I'm going to make it construction by right clicking and then doing normal /construction. The alternative is clicking like the little construction icon over here on the right. So it's kind of whatever preference you have, or the shortcut, which is X. Yeah. Does anyone have questions up to this point? What's up? Oh, okay. Feel free to yell at me. The normal thing? Oh yeah, you can click on the line, or you can do construction over on the right, or you can right click it and do normal / construction. And when you do it, it turns into a dashed line. And then if you do it again, it becomes a solid line again.
Can we mirror that?
Yeah, I'm about to do that. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, how do you do the construction line?
You either right click on the line or click on the line, and then there's the construction icon on the right. Or you can right click it and press normal or / construction like that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's multiple ways of doing it.
And then your thickness, so how thick you're.
All right, everyone good now?
I did point 1.
I'm gonna assume you are. So you can see we have like this half tooth profile. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna copy it along this axis, right? So there's this mirror tool right here, like these two triangles. I'm gonna select it, and then I'm gonna select the two lines here, and then select a mirror line, which is this construction line. You can see it previews. It's a nice full tooth. And then when I confirm it, it's nice and mirrored, right? And again, it's nice because we can change the dimensions that we started with. Like if I wanted this to be 25, and then everything changes with it, right? So this is why we're kind of doing it. Does that make sense? Okay. So now that we have a full tooth, we're going to do the same thing like mirroring, but we're going to copy it in a circle. So I'm going to select all of this, and then I'm going to create a circular pattern down here. And then it'll ask me to specify a center point, which is the center of the circle. And then you can see it's creating identical teeth, right? Maybe I want more. Let's do like 17, maybe less. Yeah. So you can see here, like you can change the quantity, and then when you press OK, they're all nice and fully defined. Again, if I was to change the original dimension, they'll all change with it, which is what we want. Does that make sense? Yes. Just make sure that they're not like those are.
That means like the only highlight the stuff that's completely encapsulated. If you draw
drive the other way. If you drive left, then it'll grab each side. So there you go.
Maybe take the perimeter.
Now you can go.
Mine's not selecting. Did you turn that mirror thing? So like. Do I have to be in this? Oh, yeah.
Are there more steps after that? No, there's no wires. Select the, not the, don't select the. And no. Yeah, you see that actual board. I don't know. One probably like program. Oh, okay. What I'm doing is going to seem to be beautiful. So excited. Oh,
I probably, I mean, you can, I don't. Why am I? What does she kill? I'm sketching right on top of this thing. It just despawned. I got dimensions. It's
wait, it's right there.
I know. I don't know if it's like the color or I was messing with the appearance. I probably shouldn't have done that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make maybe let's try it like extend this.
I definitely.
No, literally. Oh shit! You know what I did? I was turned off everything. So it looked better.
Oh.
I forgot I did that. Now I know that's how that works.
Wait, should I hair dryer?
If you want to, I just do it in 2D, or I just do a 2D sweep. Or
How do you do it? Like, how do you create
I think you need to make like a 3D.
In SolidWorks, you click right next to sketch. Usually 3D is the option.
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I'm gonna do before I extrude it, I'm gonna just kind of trim away the stuff that we don't need. It might break the model. Yeah. Okay.
Where did you find that 3D sketch?
like when you there's a button.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete all of that inside the sketch. Or just no, delete the extrude in it. Just follow along because I'm gonna fix that real quick. So I'm gonna constrain this to the outside. I trimmed the excess. But then when I trimmed it, it broke the constraint. So I added another line right here. Does that make sense? Do I need to do it again? I probably will. Okay. So before I extrude this, you can see there's like a bunch of different closed bodies, right? And when you go to extrude, you can like manually select all of them, but I'm gonna be lazy and I'm gonna trim away all the excess lines that I have. But when I do that, you can see this vertical line is referencing this part of the circle. So when I trim it away, it'll become blue because it's not referencing anything anymore, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this point on the construction line coincident with the circle's radius, and it should fix it. Yeah, okay, cool. So then I'm just gonna trim away everything else, and then I'm gonna extrude it. So when I extrude it, it should just auto select everything, and I don't have to do every single body or close. Oh, oops. What? Okay, so with that finish, I'm just gonna extrude it, some like arbitrary number, Okay, so now we have our gear. I'm hoping everyone's here. I realize it's 6:40, so I need to start speeding up a little bit. But now that we have this gear, you can see in this model, we have a threaded hole inside of it. So to do that, I'm going to create a hole using the hole tool. If you have like previous CAD experience, you might be used to like drawing a sketch and then just extruding a hole when you want it. While that does like technically work for many cases, it technically is bad practice, depending on the geometry, of course. The reason being, especially with like, CAD and like CAM becoming a lot more like meshed together, when you create a hole, there's typically a lot of data involved when you go to manufacture it, right? So when you make a hole, you might want to tell them like what drill bit to use, like how deep you want the drill bit, like what taper angle the drill bit should be. So all of those are very important when you're manufacturing stuff. And if you just make an extruded hole with like a sketch, you're going to lose a lot of that data. So it's typically good practice to use something like a hole wizard or a hole tool when specifying a certain hole, unless it's like a pocket, right? If it's like a pocket, then just use a sketch. But for like tapped holes and drilled holes, you want to use the hole tool. And it just lets the person manufacturing your part know that it's a hole and not a pocket. So it's like a very like minuscule difference, but it can be very important for the person making your part. Obviously, if you're just doing something by yourself and messing around, sometimes I just find it faster to just extrude a cut or extrude a sketch. But if you're designing for manufacturing, using the hole tool is very, very good. So I'm going to use it today. I'm just going to specify a point which is like on the origin right there. And then you can see here, like I was talking before, there's a lot of information here on this. In this case, we're doing a through hole, so the taper angle of the drill bit doesn't really matter. But you can see there's a bunch of different options, right? So if you want to like countersink or counterbore your screw holes, like this is an option. But we're just gonna make a straight hole with a tap today. So for a hole type, it's just gonna be simple, and then the hole tap type is gonna be tapped. I'm gonna set the distance to all because I want it to go through the whole thing. And then you can see here when we scroll down, there's even more information, right? So when we specify a tap, we can use the hole tool to tell Fusion what tap you want, right? In the past, you might like model like the profile of like the thread and then like spiral it and all that stuff, which is like it takes forever. But you can just do that in Fusion with the hole tool. So yeah, do that instead of like extruded cutting a helix or something. But you can see here, like, I can specify a bunch of sizes, or I think like you can do like custom, but I'll just do like some random number here. You can see it'll give me all the different thread pitches that are available. I think you want them modeled because then it'll look nice. But if you don't, it'll just kind of be like smooth. I'll do modeled because it might look cool. And then you just press OK. And then you can see here, there's some nice threads in our model. Does that make sense? Again, this like extruded hole sketch and hole tool thing is very like small, but it can make a difference. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, sweet. So it's 6:45. I think I'm running a little bit slow. So I'm going to speed up a little bit. Again, all of these stuff is recorded. So if I lose you, don't worry. You can watch it later. But try to follow along if you can. But yeah, that's the gear assignment. I hope that was clear to you all. Okay, cool. I think, yeah. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a hair dryer for the next assignment. This looks a little bit more advanced because it is. But what we're gonna do is instead of using like the 3 origin planes that we are given when we create a design, we're gonna create some new ones. And it's gonna allow us to do some cool stuff like lofts and stuff. So I'm gonna make a new design, and then I'm gonna start building like my plans, right? Typically we create sketches, but in this case I want to start building some planes. You can see in this image there's like, you know, a couple like of this orangish yellow squares. Those are more planes. So if I like unhide the origin with this eyeball thing, you can see there's like the 3 default planes that we're given. But to create this geometry, we're going to create some more. So I'm going to go under construct and then offset plane. You can see there's like a bunch of different options. I'll use maybe like offset and mid plane today, but there's a bunch of different options here. So I'm going to start with an offset plane. I'm going to click on a plane to offset from and then specify some distance. I don't know, maybe like 50. Then I'm going to create 2 more. So another offset plane. Maybe I'll make this one like 80. And I'll maybe adjust this one, be a little bit smaller. Again, you can edit things in your timeline by just going down there and editing features or sketches. So I'm going to do that. And then for the last one, I'm just going to do a mid plane just to kind of show you how it works. It'll ask you to select 2 different planes. So I'm going to select like the farthest one and then like the middle one I created. And then it'll make like a plane that's perfectly in the middle between them, hence mid plane. Yeah. Is everyone at this point? Raise your hand if you need more time.
What are the like relative dimensions?
Oh, it's all arbitrary, so you can kind of do whatever you want. Yeah. Okay, everyone good?
What is the offsets?
They're arbitrary. Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna sketch 4 different circles, right? And we're gonna make sure that they're all on different planes because we just created new planes. We're gonna all make sure they're centered with each other, and then we're gonna create something called a loft. So we're gonna make 4 sketches. I'm gonna select the bottom one first. Again, I really recommend you use the origin for this, just because it'll make things easier. To center all of them. So simple circle, fully constrained. I'm going to create a new sketch. I'm going to select the plane above it. This time I'm going to make another circle, maybe a little bit bigger this time. Let's do like 60. And then I'm going to do it 2 more times. The next one I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And then I think the last one I'm going to fan out to be larger. But this is all kind of up to you. Okay. Raise your hand if you're not here yet. Okay, no problem. Having fun.
I'm having fun.
At least it's not Creo. Oh, I think Fusion makes more sense in my version. But I have been doing this for like 3 years. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I like to try to make it nice and chill. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully, I feel like we should think of some better table layouts. Yeah, that would definitely be ideal. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to pick this. I think it might be good if we do like 2 vertical ones and then one like horizontal on the end. So it'd be like groups of 6. Yeah, that might be good. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll try that next week. That might make the classroom a little bit better. No, I totally understand. I get out of class at like 4:20 and I'm like, yeah, and then I come home, I go home, I set some stuff up, and then I come back. So, yeah, my Mondays start at 8:30 and they end when I get off. And then I have to do fluids after this. I'm gonna cry. No, fluids homework. My homework's due on Mondays. Dude, I mean, like I guess, but they they make us like write out and explain everything. So yeah, I'll show you. That was my one. That was homework. I'm like, dude, explaining the equations meant. I'm gonna go and create a loft. So you see we've created 4 circles on 4 different planes. I'm gonna go under create and then loft. You can see how like this square becomes a circle in the preview, and that's something the loft is really good for. It's really nice for really smooth transitions into like different geometries. In this case, we're doing a bunch of circles, so it'll be like a very base looking object. So you want to select the profiles. Make sure you select them in order, because if you select them out of order, it'll like invert and like turn itself inside out. So if I do it wrong, like if I do this one and then the second one and then or the third one and then the second one, you'll see it like inverts itself, right? So we don't want that. So we're gonna make sure to select them in order. And when you do that, we have a nice base looking object. Yes, you can make a pea shooter out of this. I love that game. But yeah. Okay. So now that we have this solid base, we're gonna want to make it hollow because presumably air is gonna move through this. So you want it to have holes. But because this is a very like complex and like organic shape, it would be very difficult to create like a sketch that has a constant width throughout the whole geometry. But you can make Fusion do it for you by using the shell command. So basically, you'll select a face and a thickness, and then it'll make sure the width it's like consistent throughout the body. So if I click on it and I click this face right here, I can specify some thickness, maybe like 2. You can see when it does it, it's a nice like consistent width throughout, right? So if you want to like make a vase and like 3D print it, this is a pretty good way to do it. But yeah, does that make sense? Okay, cool. So next, yeah. Wait, sheet metal. Okay. So the next step is to apply a fillet to the edge of this hair dryer. I'm purposely gonna do it wrong to show you what happens when you do certain things. You want to make sure the fillet is just on the outer edge, but I'm gonna apply it to the outside and the inside, right? And I'll show you what happens, or I'll show you what might happen if you do it wrong. So I'm gonna fillet it to these 2 edges. Again, you should be doing the outside only, but I'm gonna do both. So yeah, this is wrong. It'll be it'll appear later on why this is wrong, because I'm purposely CADing this out of order so you can see how certain functions in Fusion works. Anyways, we have this filleted. What's next is to create this little handle for the hair dryer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another plane, and I'm gonna offset it from one of these horizontal planes from the origin, not like the bottom one, but one of these side ones. So I'll do this one here, and for the distance, I'm gonna make sure it's like outside of this dryer body. So maybe like maybe a bit more. No, it doesn't have to be close. It's actually just it's good if it's clearly farther away. Just so you don't have any conflicting stuff. So you can see there's a gap here. That's fine. I'm gonna press OK. I'm gonna create another sketch and then go enter the plane that we just created. And now I'm gonna sketch the handle. So I'm gonna start by drawing a circle. I'm gonna purposely draw it out here on the side and then constrain it the way I want. So I want this to be vertical in relation to this. So I'm going to select the center of the circle and the origin to horizontal vertical. I'm going to specify this dimension here from the center to the origin. I'll do like 35. Looks good. And then for the diameter, I'll just do like 35 again. It looks decent. So now I have this kind of circle floating outside of this body here. But now I'm gonna combine it with this main body here. So I'm gonna create an extrude, and then I'm gonna change the direction from one side to 2 sides, right? Changing it to 2 sides will allow me to specify 2 different extrudes from this plane in different directions, hence 2 sides, right? So the first one is the blue arrow is going towards the body. I don't want it to be a distance. I want it to make sure it stops and wraps around this hair dryer, right? So I can change the extent type from distance to object, and then I can click on the outer face. And then when I do that, you can see it makes a nice extrude, and it'll extrude evenly up to the surface, right? So that's good. Obviously, this is a little bit stubby for holding your hand to it. So we're going to change or we're going to specify the distance for side 2, which is the other arrow, to another number. So I don't know, maybe do like, still kind of short. Let's make it longer. I don't know. Not that one. Okay. So you can see, if you look at this sketch, right? This sketch is kind of in the middle of the two extrudes. One is going smoothly to here, and then the other is going to that direction, right? So that's good. That's what we want. This is one extrude, so it's specified as a two-sided extrude instead of one side. Yeah. Okay. Is anyone confused about that? All right, awesome. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a chamfer to it. It's very similar to the fillet that we did on the hammer assignment from week 1, but instead of a rounded corner, it's going to be like a nice straight corner. So fillets, or the chamfer, is just under the fillet tool. So a nice straight edge. It's under modify and then chamfer. Okay, so who is not here yet? Feel free to raise your hand.
Hold on, sorry.
And now you want to stay with no, you don't want to move forward to craft again. Don't go out on there. You want some more verticals and no more. Alright, do your diagram. More vertical, just more vertical. Right, we can. Okay, there you go. Marking our change. Do your diagram. One and two. There you go. Okay, perfect. Okay, now, point on the vertical. Flip the circle. Center of the circle. Yeah. No, center of the circle. Okay, all the keyboard. Okay, now. From there. D to the origin.
Is everyone up to this point? Okay, I'll wait.
Side two. Come here. Not this one. Okay, no.
First, go up to two sides.
That is not the proper way.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so. Now one.
Hold on, maybe mine, actually mine looks like.
Yeah, that's right. You have to go to 2000.
So now under object. Oh, this? Yeah, there's like different sequences. Yeah. Alright, sounds good. Do the second side. Roll this one. Negative because the other way. Thank you. Okay, you have to like like this profile and then object. Profile.
So do you want to change here? We're gonna try to go to.
Oh, yeah.
Two on.
Okay, the next point I'm going to make is kind of important. So everyone please pay attention. This is kind of like a fundamental CAD thing that you might find useful. So basically, I told you earlier that I was going to do something wrong, right? And the thing I did wrong, oh wow, my computer froze. Okay, the thing I did wrong here was that I filleted the inside of like the shell, right? And basically, when you do something like this, you create a dependency, right? For that fillet to exist, you need the shell, right? Because that edge wouldn't exist without the shell. And that creates like potential issues. Obviously, if that's what you want, then that's fine. But when you want to reorder stuff, the things you make can be dependent on the other things you make, right? So in this case, like this fillet is dependent on having the shell there. But one of the cool things you can do in CAD programs is you can reorder the operations and you'll get a different result, right? So in this case, because we shelled it earlier on, it only hollows out the inside of like the vase part, right? But if I was to move the shell to be after these like extrusions for the handles, the handle would also be hollow inside, right? So like let's say you wanted it to also be hollow, so you could put like electronics or something inside. If you want to do that, you can typically drag these features in the timeline forward to be after like you created the certain features, right? But it's only if everything in front of it is not dependent on it, right? But because I made this fillet and it's dependent on the shell being there, if I hold my mouse and I try to drag it, you can see like the black bar in the timeline isn't going farther than the fillet, right? So it's because it's dependent here. So if I want to fix that, in this case, I'm just gonna like delete this this selection here and only fillet the outside. If I only fillet the outside and I find the shell here in my timeline, if I try to drag it forward now, you can see the bar is going all the way, right? So in this case, that's what we want. So when I do that, you can see now the inside of the hairdryer is hollow now, right? So this is a very useful thing to know because sometimes you might design something and you want to reorder things, but then if you start dragging things and things start like not dragging, then you have to figure out why. And in this case, is because I created that dependency with that edge in the fillet. But it can happen for all sorts of reasons. So you want to keep that in mind when you design things. Obviously, if that's like intended in your design, then that's perfectly fine. But in this case, I decided later that I want the handle to be hollow. So yeah.
Just fill it with it and support it.
You could also do that, right? If you wanted, you could move this fillet to be in front of everything and then put the shell to be like right before it as well. That's also possible. So like the nice thing about CAD is you can typically like move these things around. But you know, in the end, we have the same amount of operations, but the model is completely different. Well, I mean, obviously it looks the same, but like the model is different, right? So it's something to keep in mind. Also, like if I was to put like the fillet or the chamfer after the shell, it could like make things really weird. Like if this chamfer was really large, right? Then like there's this really weird floating section, right? And it's because like, you know, it was created after this shell, so it's hollow already, but when I applied the chamfer, then it cuts away at nothing. But if I reorder it, it becomes nice again, right? So yeah, keep that in mind when you're modeling. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. But yeah, the last thing for this model is just designing this wire. What we're gonna do is create a sweep. A sweep is kind of similar to a loft in the sense that you create multiple sketches and it creates a solid body based on it. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a circle and then a line or a spline, and then that circle is gonna follow it. So they call it like a profile and a path. The profile will be the circle, and then the path will be this like squiggly line we create later. So I'm gonna start with the circle. I'm gonna make a sketch right here. I'm purposely gonna draw it out here just to show you, you know, you can reference stuff that you've created. So in this case, we have these like edges here, and they're round and circular. You can constrain this to be concentric with like the original body. It's like hidden now. Then I can dimension it. Maybe I'll do like 10 or something. So I have that one sketch. For the next one, I'm going to create another sketch, and then I'm going to create it on this plane that kind of goes through the middle of the hairdryer. Again, this is why I highly recommend you draw things in relation to the origin, because it kind of makes things nice and centered, right? So when I draw this, it'll be right on the center of this. Something to note, you can see here, there's these like, it's kind of hard to see, but there's these purple lines. And if you're interested in what these purple lines are, it's something called a projected line. So you can see here, like this is a round surface with like an edge, right? But if I wanted to reference this in another plane, if you look at it from this perspective, it just looks like a line, right? So I can project things like this onto my sketch. So I'm just gonna press P to project, and then I'm gonna select like, you know, this edge here. This isn't super necessary because we already have this circle there, but I'll just show you. If I hide the body, you can see there's this purple line, and it's always gonna be where this circle is. So if you want to reference something that might change, using a projected line is pretty useful when creating like sketches in relation to certain features that you already have. So I'm going to use that. You know, in this case, it'll be pretty useful because I want the start of the wire to kind of come out straight. So what I can do is I can create this line, and then I can use a geometric constraint to make this perpendicular to that projected line we just created, right? So now it's nice and straight. And then I'm going to add this more organic shape. It's called a fit point spline. And then I'm just going to kind of click a couple points. You'll see it'll make like this nice curve. And then sometimes you need to zoom out and find the check mark. It'll just kind of hang out somewhere. you can see here it's nice organic shape, but the transition from the spline to the line is not very nice, and we want a nice smooth transition, right? So I'm gonna do that by making the spline tangent to this line, and then doing that, it'll be a nice smooth transition. I'm gonna keep these dimensions arbitrary because they're pretty organic, and it's just gonna be floating around. I'm gonna finish it, and then now I'm gonna create that spline. So you can see here, like, this line is centered at this circle. So that's what we like. I'm gonna create a sweep over here. Again, it'll ask you to specify a profile and a path. So the circle here that we created earlier is the profile, and then the path is that like line and spline we made. So I'm gonna click that, and you can see it makes this nice organic looking wire thing. Does that make sense? So the profile should be the circular sketch that you created. Yeah. So in your sketch, I made the spline tangent to that horizontal line. Yeah. I'm gonna walk around.
Is it sweet? Sweet? Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, profile, I got you. Wait, click your water. Wait.
I don't know.
Oh, you're right, okay.
I don't know.
Oh, it's so cute.
I'm just trying to get the shape down before I worry about like constraining.
When you go to like render, render, yeah, I'll just but things like these, it's not meant to be. But that's why I get so bored. I literally I charge the thing for 2 hours and I just immediately unplug it. I can't have this thing charging for more than 2 hours. Because I don't want it to charge while it's at home. Should I want smart?
I'm very excited. From there, just like 20 minutes.
Okay, I was saying the output's wrong. Except that I did.
It's either art or off. You see a little art next to your battery.
Oh, well, okay, I can do that. Yeah, I always forget the comment. Wait, mine is not that good. Oh.
So, wait.
So, like, that sounded like no. I'm from Virginia. Yeah, I grew up in North Carolina, so which engineering was it today? Tomorrow. Hey, me too. What's
Make sure that timeline.
Oh,
Before you go, I want to talk about the homework because this is, in my opinion, like probably the hardest homework assignment you're gonna get in this class. So basically, the goal for your homework assignment is to utilize the geometric constraints that we learned today to create this extrusion profile, right? This photo is not super up to date because I think it's missing some dimensions. So here's like a hint for what you should do for this assignment, right? So it looks very elaborate, but you should be able to get this to be fully constrained with all these dimensions on the screen and nothing else. So if you have like 2.9s, I'm going to take off points, right? You should be able to achieve all of this. Like I achieved this in a different program, but like you should be able to do all of this. It's the same. It's the same. I did it so you guys wouldn't like take a screenshot of this and submit it as your assignment. But basically, this is kind of similar to what we did for the gear assignment, where I did like half of the profile. You can mirror it across this and then circular pattern it like 4 times, right? And then it makes like a square, right? But like these icons are kind of, they might be helpful a little bit. You can see like this one's like horizontal, like these are tangents. But like all of these circles should be the same. But yeah, utilizing like geometric constraints, you should be able to like get this sketch without adding more like dimensional constraints. If that makes sense. So this is a very, I would say it's a pretty difficult assignment for some people in this class. So don't worry. If you need it, if you need help, please just ask. I'm more than happy to help you. But yeah, don't use like fixed constraints. Don't add extra random numbers. Use these numbers, right? I know like I've been saying all this class is like all arbitrary. This is like one of the few assignments that I want you to use these numbers. So I want you all to submit the sketch. So you don't extrude this profile. If you like extrude the profile, then I won't know like if it's
I'm just saying for like the.
these are the arcs. Like you could do like an arc, these 2 points, or you could do a circle and then take away the excess. It's whatever you want.
Because like, I noticed with the fillets, it has a really weird geometry. No.
Yeah, but like this is all in a sketch. So you don't really make fillets in sketches. Well, I guess there is a fillet tool, but like the fillet tool is kind of a shortcut to create. So it's essentially just an art that's tangent to these two. This is a hard one, but this is a good test to see if
Able to get my.
Wait,
I don't know why. Because it's already saved on your name. Because it was. I'm liking it right now. Because I already saved.
What was it like? Did it like do like the next?
like if you
I'll do it
in
then.
the it's just there so I know you're not.
Yeah. I got you, man.
Thank you.